From our studios around the world, this is Eat Well, Travel Better, the Business of Food Travel podcast. Every month, we bring you the world's culinary tourism industry professionals and share with you strategies, tactics, and information that help make you a more effective leader, communicator, and professional in our culinary tourism industry. I'm your host, Eric Wolf. Thanks for listening. Welcome to episode 53. Today, we will be speaking with Hussein Dehghan. Hussein has been a licensed tourist guide for cultural and culinary sites for almost 20 years now. Recently, he has become a nationally recognized figure in gastronomy tourism for Iran, where he works with the country's stakeholders to promote their cuisines to visitors. Internationally, Hussein also represents the World Federation of Tourist Guide Associations in Western Asia. An energetic and friendly soul, Hussein loves to meet new people. Well, Hussein, thanks for joining us today on the podcast. I am really excited to be speaking with you. You're one of my favorite people to chat with just because you're so easy to talk to, and I have a lot of respect for what you're doing for tourism in Iran. So welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Eric. The pleasure is all mine.
Let's talk about how you got started being a tourist guide.
Well, it was 2002, actually, that I started taking part in the classes because over here in Iran, it's like a 6-month course that you have to go through. And then I became a tourist guide. Back then, I was just a tourist guide working in my province. But later on, I developed and did tours around Iran for the inbound tours, as well as doing the outbound tours. And this career actually made an impact on my life so that I did my master's in Orientalism because my BA is in English literature. I was totally involved with English basically and teaching English as a foreign language, but being very much involved and absorbed by the culture. I followed my education in Orientalism, studying more about the culture, history, geography, and of course the people.
And then how did you decide to specialize on gastronomy tourism?
Well, as a tourist guide for inbound tours as well as outbound tours, we're obliged to know a lot about the culture, presenting either your culture or any country's culture that you're visiting. So food and beverages are part of this journey that you need to know. Well, a person like me who is a food-loving person, I went further, and I was always very much into talking about foods and beverages, offering foods and beverages, showing people, especially Iranians outside Iran, let's say in Europe, where they can shop for local foods and beverages, and of course in Iran for foreign visitors, presenting our culture through foods and beverages, as well as showing them the monuments and everything. So it was almost 3 years ago that I was asked to run the food tourism committee in my town. More specifically, I got involved in food tourism activities. I started with content production, as well as reading a lot of articles about food tourism. And it was then that I got to know World Food Travel Association, and later on I took part in Culinary Tourist Guide certification, which was, eye-opening. It was like showing me a better vision of what this job, actually a culinary tourist guide, entails. And later on, I continued with the rest of my activities, specializing in food tourism.
Being in Iran, of course, that's a country that's extremely well known for its hospitality. So can you tell our listeners a little bit about the Iranian hospitality and what it means to present your food and drink and hospitality to visitors? Because I think it's something that's quite special for the rest of the world to know about.
Well, Iran is a vast country, and there are different ethnic groups living in Iran. So not only that, but also the diversity of geography in Iran gives us a lot of opportunities for food tourism or gastronomy tourism, let's say by the Caspian Sea, by the Persian Gulf, the western parts of Iran, which is mountainous, and there are more ethnic groups living over there, the central parts of Iran, which is basically close to the desert. They all give us a lot of food tourism opportunities, in Iran. So speaking of hospitality, Iranians have a great tendency to receive guests in a certain way, which means not only for a feast or dinner, but also even when they have a guest, they welcome the guest, they say hello, they ask the guest to sit in the, let's say, upper part of the room, which means the best part of the room. So they offer the guest the best they have available at home. And they try to have a clean environment. They try to welcome them, or as I said, say hello warmly. So these are the characteristics of Iranians to receive guests. And even sometimes they offer all they have when we're talking about the extreme.
So they will perhaps overextend themselves to make sure that the guest feels comfortable.
That is true because, Iranian hospitality could also be enlisted in UNESCO intangible heritage list because Iranians are passionate and hospitable. And as far as all of our guests, foreign guests in Iran have mentioned, they feel totally comfortable, not only men, but also women, because this is something very much important, that you feel totally at home. Maybe Iran's voice in all aspects, I'm talking about tourism, is not heard very well all over the globe. But when people come over here, they see a totally different face of Iran, either food, hospitality, geography, and of course, people around here.
Yeah, the Iranians that I know are all immigrants to other countries. So whether they were in the UK or the United States, but they have been some of the warmest, most gracious, and also really some of the most intelligent people I've ever met. They welcome you into their homes. They will cook amazing meals. They can talk to you about any subject and completely fluently on whether it's politics or health or geography or history or whatever it is. They know a lot about a lot of things, and they're very good dinner guests, I've found.
That is true. One of the great trends that have been very much promoted and liked by the foreign visitors in the last, let's say, 10 years is that being received by Iranians for family dinners, especially those who are doing the job professionally, because there are also some cooking classes in Iran that everybody can take part in, and they are overwhelmed being among Iranians, cooking, how passionately they can communicate their feelings of being happy for receiving guests. These are what we're known for.
Yeah, and I think it's really true that when you can sit down at a table with people and share wonderful food, and even if you can't communicate too much with words because you don't speak the same language, you put all your differences aside and you realize that we're all just human beings, and whatever craziness is happening in the world, we all just care about our families, we care about being healthy, we care about having food to eat, and we care about the safety for the people that we love, and all humans share that.
That is true. Technically speaking, gastro diplomacy is all about sharing the meals, sharing the culture, sharing great moments over a table. But if we're just talking about the people and not the diplomats or whatever, sharing the table for food and beverage, even if, as you mentioned, Eric, even if people don't understand each other's language or they cannot communicate perfectly, they communicate the looks, they communicate through what they offer each other, because, as you know, foods and beverages of a region represent who we are, and that's what brings the hearts together.
Let's go back to Hussein as the person then. What was your eureka moment then when you were building your career? When did you have this inspiration that you had finally found your calling, that you knew you were doing the right thing?
It's a little bit difficult to spot the eureka moment, but once when I was a BA student and I was very much active in teaching English, day in, day out, I found out that I like culture very much and history. So it was then that I changed my major. I studied Orientalism, specifically Iranian studies, or as the French say, les études iraniennes, because I wanted to continue my studies in France, and that's why I learned French as well. So it was the moment that I changed my life. And so far, I have been busy in tourism because of my love in culture and history. And I'm happy with that.
Culture and history, yeah, definitely being a tourist guide, I think that sounds like a perfect role for you. Did you have any people that you admired that you modeled your behaviors on, or people who inspired you to be the person you are today?
Speaking of my teaching English, yes, there was professor I had. He used to live in the US and Canada, and he was a role model for me in teaching English. Later on, I had a professor at university. He was the only professor in my master's that had nothing to do with Orientalism, because he was our professor for doing research and the methodology. I mean, he changed my vision. He taught me how to look at the world respecting methodology, and that's how I could be a totally different person, not only again in teaching, but also in how I behave, how I look at the world, how I try to comprehend my environment. By environment, I mean, again, exploring the culture and history.
Yeah, I think that we all definitely get inspired by the people that teach us, whether it's our parents or friends of the family or professors at the school who instill their values into us, and then they make us the people we are today. Have you done a lot of reading? Do you get inspiration from books at all?
Yes, I do. I have not read a lot of books of let's say general matters, but I have read a lot of history books, culture books, geography books. Some of them have been very much influential. Recently, by recently, I mean, let's say almost 1 year ago, I read a book called The Cook and the Kitchen. It's written by one of the great writers in Iran. He actually did very nice scientific research on the history of cooking in Iran from, let's say, 500 years ago up to the present time. And he did a very comprehensive research. This is, let's say, one of the recent books that I liked very much.
Was there a takeaway message from the book that you'd like to share with us? Do you remember anything about it?
I don't remember any let's say sayings or something about that. But there was another magazine. One of its volumes was allocated to food in general, and it was very much eye-opening for me that, speaking of food and the impact of the geography on what we eat and how we eat it, from, let's say, from Eastern Africa, living close to the desert, they eat almost the same way as what we do over here in my province. It's not a saying, but it's just a piece of fact which is very much absorbing.
The World Food Travel Association is the world's leading authority on food and beverage tourism. Founded in 2001, each year we serve a community of 200,000 professionals in more than 150 countries. Thinking about a career change because of the pandemic, or looking to improve your current skills? Consider our bespoke training and certification programs in culinary tourist guiding, culinary tour operations, restaurant and food service, and culinary destination marketing. Visit academy.worldfoodtravel.org to learn more and get started. Now, so you started your guiding career in, was it 2002, did you say?
Yes, correct.
Okay, so it's been about 20 years. And in that time, you've really carved out a reputation for yourself. So besides being known for food tourism and besides representing Iran for our association, you also do training for the World Federation of Tourist Guide Association. So clearly, they've recognized your excellence as well.
Yes, that is correct. It's been, almost 7 years that I'm actually working as a trainer as well for tourist guides to be. And I am a national trainer for the World Federation of Tourist Guide Associations. And hopefully in near future, I'm going to be an international one because my portfolio has been accepted, approved actually, for being an international trainer.
Do you get to travel a lot with the training you do, or?
Well, training, either in whatever course it is a difficult task because you're dealing with the people. You're sometimes, most of the times, you're dealing with the rookies, and especially in training for tourist guides to be, because people may come from different majors and they have different ages, and they have only seen tourist guides from afar, and they have never even sometimes been on a tour. So it's a little bit difficult to make it clear who a tourist guide is and what a tourist guide does professionally speaking.
When you start a new class of students, is there a way that you like, do you have an icebreaker, or is there something that you can use, a tool that you use maybe to get everybody on the same page to understand things so that you can teach them from that common starting point?
Well, because I have been an English instructor, I basically start eliciting information from them. I would like to make sure that we are all on the same page. I try to set the ground for the class, and asking them where we are, what we're going to do, what the expectations are, why have they registered for this course. So this is how I basically start the class on the first day, because I'm a little bit of a strict trainer. On the first day, I try to be very kind and nice and humorous, but later on, I will just, start being more strict, because sometimes we are working outside. I mean, we're not just in the class. So when you're outside, the trainees may not comprehend or grasp the gravity of the situation. So sometimes there are times that you need to tip them that, hey, this is a class.
Yeah. Well, that's good, I think, because it's people who are signing up to become tourist guides. I mean, it's a you're learning a new profession. So there's classroom practical training, there's the hands-on training, getting out and actually doing it, the testing part of things. So it's quite involved. And I think sometimes people think they do it because they think it would be fun, but they don't necessarily, not all of them, but some of them think it's just going to be fun and they don't take it seriously. And then they realize very quickly that, no, this is a career and you have to be serious about it. So, yeah. So when all you're traveling around, you must have some fantastic meals that you remember.
Well, I'm not going to talk about Iran because I would love everyone to come to Iran and explore Iran food-wise, because there's a wide variety, and because, any season you come over here to Iran, you will find something very much interesting in season, and that is very much important. But my experience over, let's say, in the countries that I have been to, I I have had great moments either in the food stalls in November in Europe, let's say Budapest. I had a great moment. There was this pizza in the wood oven, or I can say I had a great meal with a nice friend right in the heart of Prague in Czech Republic, or Le Canard, the great French food in Paris, especially in Le Procope, the restaurant. And I use the picture of Le Procope still in my presentations that I do. I also had a great visit to Trinity College in Dublin, and we had a nice drink over there, and then we had our gala dinner. You know, I can give you a list of great moments, foodie moments, I can say, on my trips. But you know, aside from all of that, I'm pretty sure that uh, my country is a place that everybody can have either fruit juice moments, food picking moments, a lot of these.
Do you have a favorite cuisine or a favorite country?
You know, it's a little bit difficult for me to answer this question. There is this fact that Iranians are a little bit tough, or which means we do not have a wide appetite. Hopefully, I do because I have traveled, but still, I have not tried a lot of different cuisines. But those that I have tried, let's say the French cuisine, I have been all over Europe, the Russian style, the Indian style, all those that I have tried, I like them very much. But culturally speaking, I am very much into Indian cuisine.
Indian, did you say?
Yes, Indian.
Okay. What is it about the Indian food that you like? Is it curry or what is it?
You know, like I said, it's more of a cultural attachment for me. I have not tried a lot of Indian dishes, but culturally speaking, I am very much into it because I watch documentaries, I study about India. However, I have been to India before, and it just amazes me how the impact um, was and how large, you know, we can rely on India, speaking of spices.
Well, India does have some amazing cuisines. I have not yet had a chance to visit the country, and I think I would need a lot of time to explore it because it's a huge country and it's got so many different cultures and cuisines that it's not something you could just do in a week, I think.
Sure, that is correct because you know India is almost a subcontinent, and it is a subcontinent, and every corner of this country offers something that you need, let's say, 2 weeks to explore, and yet it's not finished.
And Iranian cuisine is amazing too, or Persian cuisine. What's that one dish? Is it tadik?
Yes, tadig is you know what every single family has a fight over.
So for our listeners, can you explain what tadig is? Because that's the one thing that I do remember from Persian cooking.
Yes, we have tadig and tachin. There are two different things, but anyways, tadig is because rice is the main staple in Iran. So for especially for lunch and dinner, we have rice. So tadig is the crispy rice which is at the bottom of the pot, and maybe it could accompany with the potatoes which are crispy and they shine brightly, and we like to have the stew on it and eat it, or simply eat it alone, and every single family will fight over it, and there have been some wars on that.
Well, it is quite tasty. I really enjoyed it. And what was the other one that you mentioned? The second one?
Tahchin, you know, tahdig is when you have the rice and at the bottom you have the crispy part.
Right.
Tahchin is when you go for tahdig only as a main dish, and you may mix the rice with yogurt, with saffron, with the chicken or any other ingredient to make a thin layer. It's like it could be as thick as vegetable quiche, and it's just the tahchin, which means, I mean, it's just the dish. It's not part of a pot.
Okay, so I've just Googled this while you were talking, and I'm seeing a picture of what looks like the tadig, but on the top it's got pistachios and berries, and then in the middle it's got chicken and pistachios.
So this is tahchin.
Tachin, right. Is that what you were talking about then, the second one?
Yes,
Okay.
tahchin is the one you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks quite tasty actually.
Yes, it is.
What's your favorite Iranian dish?
Well, hopefully, I eat everything. I'm the only person in the family who eats everything, and I just don't you know uh, deny anything. But my favorite dish is in Safavid time in Iran. By Safavid I mean 16th 17th century. There was this type of rice cooked with other let's say meat or chicken. So my favorite one is the type of rice mixed with almond, pistachio, carrot, saffron, barberry, and chicken. So they're all mixed together and cooked.
Hmm. That sounds wonderful.
Yeah.
Now, I know that Iran is famous for its saffron. Is it as expensive there as it is in other countries?
Yes, but not very much expensive. In the last 2 years, for economic strains, everything, uh, the prices have gone up dramatically, but still the price of saffron in Iran is cheaper than the price of saffron in other parts of the world. And the quality, and it's very important that the quality is a great one, because there are certain things to check the quality.
Sure. I know that there's also counterfeit saffron, where in other countries that people will sell things and they'll say it's saffron, but it's not really saffron.
Yeah, unfortunately, there is a type of plant which looks like saffron, and we use those on top of a bread. When we bake the bread, it only gives a color of pale yellow, but it's not saffron.
Ah,
So unfortunately, in some countries they say it's saffron, or they may mix it with the real original saffron.
is there any kind of a certification program so that when the product is exported, the importers will know that it's the real thing?
Yes, the standard company in Iran, for not only saffron, any other type of foods that are exported, they need to come up with certain, examinations and certifications. And then maybe there are some other examinations requested by the destination country that they need to go through.
Okay. All right. Well, that makes good sense. So I'm looking at some of the other Iranian foods now on this website, and I'm seeing this cookie that looks wonderful. Kuluche?
Yes, Kuluche. The northern parts of Iran, um, which is like close to the beaches of Caspian Sea, they have a wide range of foods, beverages, and confectionery to offer. And Rasht, the capital of Gilan province,
Yes.
is a yes creative gastronomy city enlisted in UNESCO list. So kuluche is the cookie which in between there is a paste. One of the main ingredients is the walnut could be, and because in northern parts of Iran we also have the tea. They may in their region they don't offer it in other parts because it goes bad very quickly, so expires. They also may mix it with the green tea or the black tea.
What we've talked about, and also some of the images I'm seeing online right now, I would have to say that Persian cuisine is probably in my list of the next top 3 foods I need to try. If you can believe it or not, I've not been to Thailand, so Thailand is up there, but Iran, and I don't know what would be the third one, possibly India, but so many. I mean, there's similarities with other Middle Eastern cuisines with some of the meats and stuff, or like the biryanis with some of the dishes in India. But I think that you do enough different variations on these kind of
I think there's a possibility that someone might try your food and say, oh, it's like other Middle Eastern foods, but it's not, because you're definitely your own cuisine, your own history, and you do things a little bit differently from some of the other neighboring countries. So yeah, I'm looking forward to a visit.
You should, Eric. You should, because, like I mentioned, the geography hopefully was generous enough to offer us a lot. We're not India to have a lot of spices, but we're close to India. Even before 1950s, we bordered India, and we have a lot in common. We live in the Middle East. We share a lot of common grounds with the other countries, but we do it our way because we have a rich culture. And by this rich culture, we have our own style of cuisine. One of the major traits of our cuisine is that we simmer it. We let it cook slowly. This is something that you can trace in Iranian cuisine. It's not as hot as India. It's not as bland as some European dishes. So it's something moderate. We pay a lot of attention to how moderate the food is cooked. We also balance the food or the dish with the dessert or maybe with the starter, and by balance, I mean we take care of, there is something, let me put it this way. There is something in our culture we call the hot or the cold nature of what we eat. This hot and cold refers to the body and the stomach. To give you an example, banana and nuts are called hot because they have a lot of energy. Lemon and lime, these are considered cold. So there is always a balance or a mix of hot and cold in whatever we eat and how we cook.
That is absolutely fascinating. And that is very similar to what I have learned about Vietnamese cuisine, that the chefs there use a similar approach, trying to balance the hot and cold. And they got their approach to that from Chinese, the yin and the yang. Where did that influence in Iran come from? Was it from other parts in the Middle East, or do you know the history of that?
I don't know if you have taken from any other culture, but the oldest cookbooks that we have written, and today we use them, come from, let's say, 1500. And in those cookbooks, they clearly talk about this hot and cold nature. And for example, another book from 1700, there is this French physician talking to the chef of the king, one of the kings of Iran that time, and they're talking about culinary medicine. They're talking about how foods and beverages will help your body to survive. And in Persian, we call it hifz al-sihh. And that is how even today in Western world they are treating food, because food is what helps the body survive and live. And in our poetry also says that the sound brain exists in the sound body.
Were there old connections, or was there a trade route? I mean, did the Silk Road go through Iran, or was it north of Iran? I'm just trying to connect Iran to China somehow to see if these influences maybe came from China originally.
Personally, I don't think there were influences from China in this regard, because our cooking styles are totally different. But the Silk Road passes through northern parts of Iran, the major Silk Road. And the other thing is that Persian Gulf was always a way to be used by the Arabs in, let's say, 14th, 15th century, before the major development of sailing in the world. And they used to do the trade of the spice through the Persian Gulf, through Saudi Arabia or the Arabic countries in the western parts of Iran, and then to Europe.
So I'm looking here at a map of the old Silk Road, and there were definitely some connections that came very close to. And you said it went through northern Iran?
Yes.
Well, there maybe there was some influence, a couple thousand years ago. Who knows? You're bringing spices, you're bringing customs, you're bringing beliefs, you're bringing the people. And when people stop and stop for the night or whatever, and they share stories, they share foods or ingredients or spices, maybe they left a legacy, or maybe they influenced each other somehow.
For sure.
That's really fascinating. I didn't know that about Iranian food.
See, Eric, you absolutely need a 1 month trip to Iran and explore this tremendously fascinating part of the world.
It is fascinating. And hey, I wanted to ask you the area of Shiraz in Iran. Now that is known for the grape, right? The old grape that was cultivated there.
It's not only the grapes in Shiraz, the province of Fars, the capital of which is Shiraz, has always been the cradle of civilization in Iran, let's say from the Achaemenid. It was the first major part of the country for Achaemenid. I'm talking about 500 BC,
Okay.
And of course, when the Perses, they started to live, it's about 1000 BC. So even today, the province of Fars is one of the largest provinces in Iran, and it's very much agricultural for various crops and fruits.
And I see it's not that far from the coast either.
It's very much close to the Persian Gulf. Since it's a very vast province, they share different cultures and cuisine. There are also nomads living in the province of Fars, so which gives a lot of variety, not only to the gastronomy culture, but also to the clothes, people, and everything.
And was wine then made there before? And is that where we get the term Shiraz today?
Yes, before the revolution of 1979, the wine from Shiraz was world known.
And unfortunately, that's no longer the case. But hey, the name lives on, which is nice.
The name lives on, and I think Australia uses that wisely.
Yes, they do. They do use it a lot in Australia. And for those people listening, in case you didn't know, Shiraz is the same as the Syrah grape. So where will you be traveling to next, Hussein?
It's been almost more than 2 years that I have not run any tours, which means I have not earned any money. But I hope to travel to Europe in the next coming months. Either it's for an exhibition or just for me. So it might be very much soon going to Europe.
It's going to be good to travel again, although it feels strange. I've traveled a couple times during the pandemic, and it almost feels like it's wrong to do it. It's wrong to be traveling. There's so many rules and regulations that it just feels very strange right now. And even though we're coming out of the pandemic, these rules are still there in many countries. You can enter if you're vaccinated, or you can't enter, and all these different things. It just feels, everything is so strange now.
Yeah, it's a little bit difficult. Hopefully there is going to be another trip going to Armenia, because they have signed a memorandum of understanding with Iran regarding food, handicraft, and music festival. And as the ambassador of World Food Travel Association in Iran, I'm invited. I think it's going to be an amazing trip taking place in August.
Wonderful. Yeah. Armenia has got a lot of interesting culinary stories too. The Armenian pizza is well known, and I think Armenian brandy is well known. It'll be a fascinating trip for you to discover what the country has, for sure.
Fingers crossed.
So if you had to give a piece of advice to a younger version of you, what would you tell yourself?
I would tell to my younger version, travel more, start earlier. It was very much late in my life that I started traveling because I have always been very much busy with my teaching English. So if I go back, let's say 15, even 20 years earlier, I would certainly start to spend all of my life for traveling, because I am in love with traveling around the world.
Well, I can certainly agree with that. I think that many of us regret not having started things a little bit earlier in life. Maybe we spent longer in school or we took a job, and then before you know it, you're 30 or 35 years old and you're in the middle of your life, right? And I would have loved the benefit of that foresight for someone to tell me and say, do this from day one, or this is how you should treat people or interact with people, or sometimes people will treat you this way, and save some pain and hardship in dealing with people in business.
That is correct. And hopefully I encourage my students and my trainees to travel a lot, and some of them have started. I also established some workshops telling people how to travel and how to run a tour outside Iran, which was eye-opening for some people, and I'm happy with that to share these moments with them.
Yeah. Well, travel is definitely the best education. And like we were saying before about the gastrodiplomacy, regardless of the misunderstandings among governments or whatever, you can just sit down with someone, share a meal, smile, laugh. Maybe you don't understand the words that are being said, but you can understand that we're all sharing the human experience. And I think that is one of the most powerful experiences that we can share.
That is true. And I have a lot of tourist guide friends around the globe, not only because of my career, but also because of the position I have in the World Federation of Tourist Guide Associations. They help you understand the value of traveling a lot, because some of these friendships were in a better position when I traveled. And I met them and I learned from them and I learned from their culture. It was something very nice. So like you mentioned, like you asked, if I go back, I will certainly travel more, because through traveling, you will have a better vision of life and you can position yourself in life much better.
I agree with you 100%. Well, hopefully I'll get a chance to meet with you in Iran in the not too distant future.
Absolutely. That would be perfect.
Well, Hussein, thanks so much for taking the time today to share your thoughts and your background with us. You are a fascinating person and just a generally all-around nice guy. So thanks for everything today, and looking forward to the chance when we get to finally meet in person.
Thank you very much for taking this time talking to me. It was a very nice talk. And I really hope that everybody will realize the value of the food travel and how food and gastronomy tourism can bring the hearts together. Thank you very much.
That's it for this episode of the Eat Well, Travel Better podcast. This episode is brought to you by the World Food Travel Association. The World Food Travel Association is the world's leading authority on food and beverage tourism. Founded in 2001, each year we serve a community of 200,000 professionals in more than 150 countries. Thinking about a career change because of the pandemic, or looking to improve your current skills? Consider our bespoke training and certification programs in culinary tourist guiding, culinary tour operations, restaurant and food service, and culinary destination marketing. Visit academy.worldfoodtravel.org to learn more and get started. Finally, we'd like to hear from you regarding the podcast. We invite you to share your ideas, questions, and thoughts by emailing us at help@worldfoodtravel.org, or you can connect with us and comment about the episode on major social media platforms. Special thanks to our guest Hussein Dehghan, and our thanks to you for joining us. I'm Eric Wolf, wishing you a safe, happy, and productive month ahead.